Zerlina Maxwell is a CBSN political contributor and the director of progressive programming at SiriusXM. She joins me for our Democratic Strat Chat. Hi, Zerlina.
Hi.
So, does it seem like Joe Biden is basically laying the groundwork here for 2020?
Yes, I think so.
I mean, how else do we interpret that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, when you've been vice president, I think that certainly you're looking at the top job as something that you have aspired to be. He's already run twice, and so he definitely wants to be the president of the United States. I do think that there is a role for folks like Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton and other leaders of the party from the past in this upcoming midterms, because this is all hands on deck. And so I think Joe Biden is trying to find his place, not only in the resistance currently, but also looking forward, like I said, to 2020. I don't discount it or believe any of the I'm not running. I think he's going to attempt to run.
All right, you mentioned Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
On Wednesday, she said bad data from the DNC contributed to her election loss. Did you see the DNC as ineffective during the campaign?
I think, you know, from a campaign staffer, I was on the campaign side of things. Obviously, there were a lot of folks that came over from the DNC during the general election. But during the primary, I felt like, you know, we were kind of doing it all on our own, which was appropriate during the primary process. But I think that certainly in terms of data, we are far behind where Republicans are in terms of having the best data, because they have a lot of more money going into those types of ventures. And so I think that we do have a lot of building to do in that regard. And I do think she was right. And I was surprised that she was so direct about it. But I think, you know, certainly post-election Hillary Clinton is direct. That's what we've learned from all of her appearances recently.
Assessment.
Yes.
Well, let me ask you, one of the most watched races of the year is coming up in just a few weeks. It's also the most expensive House race ever. Now some GOP groups are running ads tying Democrat Jon Ossoff to Kathy Griffin after that severed head faux pas, that scandal. This could really be the first big win for Democrats during the Trump era. So what do you think Jon Ossoff's strategy here should be in the coming weeks?
I think that he just needs to focus on getting out the vote. I think that what we've learned from the 2016 election is that we can't take anything for granted. And so what they've done in Georgia is register new voters. I mean, putting new people into the process, people that have been sort of checked out of politics, but now under President Trump are reactivated and reengaged. And I think that he has a real opportunity here. We're not talking about a purple district. We're talking about Newt Gingrich's seat. So if Jon Ossoff was able to win on June 20th, that would be a huge boost for Democrats who have been looking for flipping red districts to blue in this post-Trump moment. And I think that this would be a signal, certainly to Democrats all across the country, that no, we really do have that momentum. We've come close in some of these other red districts, but this would be a really important win. And he's currently ahead within the margin of error, but he's 2 points ahead leading into June 20th.
Do you think there's a danger with the national attention that he could be tied to the National Democratic Party in a way that would not be beneficial for him?
Yeah, I think there's always that push and pull when it comes to Democrats who are running in red states. I mean, I think that that's always going to be a calculus, but I do think that there's a new type of Democrat emerging that is just being unapologetically progressive, even in red districts, because they understand that issues like climate change, which is obviously very relevant today, issues like equal pay, issues like reproductive health care are important, and day to day they impact you very intimately, and people know that policies that the decisions that politicians make in Washington affect whether or not they can go to the doctor, whether or not they're paid equally. I think that we've made that connection a little bit more apparent in the current political conversation, and I think that Democrats have embraced that.
Well, finally, the New York Times had a piece out last month which said that young black Democrats running for office in 2018 are adopting a different messaging style from other Democratic candidates. They're reportedly doubling down on their differences from Republicans in red districts instead of taking a more moderate approach. What do you think about that strategy?
Well, you know, I think we're going to have to see how that pans out, but I think it's a really bold and smart strategy, because I think that being Republican light, that's not going to win you an election. There's too many examples that show that when Democrats try to run to the center, even in a red district, they're usually not successful. Why vote for a Republican light when you can just vote for a Republican? Whereas progressives right now, we stand for different things. And I think that coming to an agreement on the Democratic side on what our values are, you know, you have Andrew Gillum, who's the mayor of Tallahassee, Florida, Stacey Abrams. She registered nearly 70,000 voters in 2014 for those midterm elections in the state of Florida, or excuse me, in the state of Georgia. And so, you know, focusing on being explicitly progressive, bringing new people into the process, that's how Democrats are successful going forward. I think that trying to be just like Republicans, we're not just like Republicans, and we shouldn't pretend to be.
It'll be an interesting strategy to watch. Democratic strategist and CBSN political contributor Zerlina Maxwell. Great to have you. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.